Okay, here we go. Stand by. 3, 2, 1, action.
Assume nothing.
Brash, bald-faced blasphemy.
Question everything.
I find it extremely hard to imagine.
Open your eyes.
It is quite all right to be an atheist.
The fastest growing group of people in the country has been measured as being those who have no belief or who are atheists.
You don't have to be apologetic or quiet about it.
Challenge the opposition.
You see religion on 100 fronts losing the argument.
And start thinking. This is the Thinking Atheist worldwide.
At the top of my Facebook page is a request by Brett Williams to wish him a happy birthday. This takes me back to my old radio days. You know, we used to do we had a birthday thing back in the 90s. You know. But after a while, it becomes just a laundry list of Bob Smith, Jane Doe, Susan Williams. You know? So we didn't do a whole lot of it, but it's always kind of fun to be able to congratulate somebody on their birthday. 31 today. Brett, I got you on the radio today. So happy birthday. He was out at our Colorado event, and we were so thankful that everybody came out and had a great time. We had another birthday in the family. I got a 16-year-old girl in the family now. And it's just terrifying. Terrifying. And not because she's on the road. That's not what I'm thinking. How did this happen? She's not allowed to turn 16. She's not allowed to eventually turn 18 and grow up and move out. She's not allowed. We had just a priceless moment. We were out kind of looking for a cheap car. And it's not an expensive car. It's a first car, quote unquote, first vehicle. And we've all got a story about our first cars. Mine was a gray Toyota Corolla station wagon, belonged to my parents, and I just sort of ended up driving it. And it had been waxed with some kind of corrosive other than wax. I don't know what they used, but they actually waxed the paint right off the car. So there's all these swirls all over the vehicle. It was comical. And the nozzle on the rear hatch that shot out the windshield washing liquid was busted. So it didn't shoot the liquid straight onto the window. It didn't shoot it down onto the window to wash the window. It shot it straight out onto the car behind you. Well, as a teenager, this is awesome. You're just sitting there. I mean, I was just being a jerk. You're just sitting there. Somebody pulls up behind you. They're in a convertible. They're on a motorcycle. Cheap thrill. Anyway, it was a first car, quote unquote first car. So we're out looking. We finally find a vehicle. Not very expensive, but it'll be safe and it'll get her from point A to point B. And she's got soccer and a bunch of stuff, and we needed her to be able to transport herself around. We get into the vehicle. It's a 2002, and she looks down at the stereo, and it's a cassette player. And she looks at me with absolute sincerity, and she says, "Where's the auxiliary jack for my iPod?" It's a cassette player. Tapes. Little plastic containers with actual tape in them. You used to leave them on your dash on a hot summer day and instantly regret it. Because all of your songs then sounded like they were recorded underwater. You'd put them in anyway. Anyone remember when your tape decks used to eat tapes? Right? And you heard it happening immediately. You would jump and try to eject the tape, and before you know it, you're jacking in there with a pen or some kind of a stick or something trying to get the tape out. Man, the memories. I don't miss those days. I don't. I love the idea of digital music. One click, thousands of songs. Awesome. I would never go back. But it does bring back a lot of memories. And of course, she's looking at me like, well, what am I going to do with this? It's a tape player. And I'm like, oh, I got tapes. I got boxes in the attic. Oh, do you like Boston? Do you like Kansas? Journey, Styx? Oh, look, it's Air Supply. She's going to love it. Cruising down the street at the age of 16. Everybody else is listening to Justin Bieber, and she's got Air Supply. That's just awesome. Sorry to go off on that little tangent. It has been a gift, a Christmas of crazy religious news stories. It has been like a game show where behind every door is a prize, if you've been watching the news this week. I think my blog entry this week raised a lot of eyebrows about this miracle priest in Missouri. Now, for those who haven't been following the story, here's the short version. And this is the culture we live in. Everybody's so anxious to find God, to find a miracle. They just paint God into everything. They read about the story that happened. 19-year-old Katie Lentz. She's driving along, and some guy in the other lane, I guess, comes across the center median. Terrible collision. Her car is just crushed, and she's crushed up against the steering column. Emergency crews are there, and they're trying to get her out. And about an hour into the rescue effort, Katie, apparently, according to the news reports, asked the rescue workers to pray out loud. I guess while they were working. Please say a prayer. Please call out to God. Then, according to the story, out of nowhere, a mysterious priest appeared. And he walked up and he offered a prayer, and he happened to have anointing oil, so I guess he anointed her with oil. Right after the prayer, the Hannibal Fire Department arrived with some better equipment, and they finished the extraction. She's still in pretty bad shape, and she's busted up. Now, the sheeple go crazy over this story, and the news outlets, television and print, are shameful. ABC News had a headline that said, "Mystery Priest Vanishes After Anointing Crash Victim." And the whole thing, do you see Diane Sawyer on television? The whole thing is tainted with this sort of kiss of divinity. Who is this healer who arrived? And the faithful everywhere are posting it on Facebook. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. It's beautiful. God sent this priest. Not one story is thanking the people who brought the jaws of life and whatever else they needed to actually get her out of the car. No, let's thank the anonymous dude who dabbed her with liquid, not the people with a can opener who pried her out of the twisted metal and actually saved her life. Not one word about the fire department men and women. Not one word about the EMTs and the physicians and the volunteers on site. Not one word about them. Everybody's focused on the mystery priest. Who is this man? And I'm thinking to myself, okay, great. He's God's proxy on earth. He's God's ambassador. Where was he a few moments before the crash happened, right? Why wasn't he standing on the corner at a stoplight 5 minutes earlier, holding up a big placard that said, "Hey, you do not want to take this highway. Wait 10 minutes." You know? Why didn't he, if he was so endowed with God's power, himself open the car? He could have just reached down and just peeled that metal back like it was tissue paper. After all things are possible with God. And then when it was over, why did the guy just disappear? What an amazing opportunity it would have been for him to stay there and proclaim God's power and message. I am here as the ambassador of the Almighty, a conduit of his power to bless this accident scene. Heed his message. He had an amazing platform, and obviously the USA was watching. Everybody was watching. Now, if she had died, would they have blamed the priest for not being an effective healer? Right? What a huge double standard. He would have gotten a pass. You know what? He was there at the last moment to give her comfort. No one would have said, "Oh, what a sucky priest. Can we get a better priest in here? Do we grade these people? You know, is he a C-level priest? Can we get at least a B-? Can we get somebody who's been at this tier? Are they like Scientologists? There are different grades, of power. This guy's good for exorcisms. This guy's good for healings. This guy's good for forgiveness. Just send them out to their respective places and let them go to work." Well, apparently the priest has been revealed. According to the Examiner, the article in the Examiner said, "The miracle-working Catholic angel priest." I'm sorry, how much is wrong with that phrase? What miracle? She's surrounded by firemen. peeling around to the wreckage for 90 minutes. What miracle did he perform? The miracle-working Catholic angel priest from Missouri has come forward, revealing his identity to the Catholic National Register, telling the CNR the miracle was the combined efforts of all present. After Father Patrick Dowling read the story in the Catholic National Register, he commented that he was the mystery priest who prayed with 19-year-old Katie Lentz. Now, look, I haven't vetted this story, so anyone could have come forward and said, it was me, right? Because now you got people who are going to be pawing at you to be interviewed on the Today Show, and you're going to be, you're going to be on Hannity. Oh, we've got to get this guy. So who knows? But so far, he's the one who has come forward. The idea that they called him a miracle-working Catholic angel priest is still stuck in my mind. By the way, to those of you who are in the emergency fire medical community, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your time, for your commitment, for committing your lives to the service of others, for your training, for your experience, for your intelligence, for the risks you so often take for the rest of us. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And please ignore this huge pounding drum of praise for the guy in a pre-scholar who did jack squat. There are some of us out there who recognize and acknowledge your contributions in this scenario, and we want to thank you. I was watching a post online from a guy who was, I don't know if he was a nurse or a doctor. His words were, whenever somebody comes in and plays the Jesus card after we've done all this, I just want to throw my scrubs in the trash and walk. I just want to walk. By the way, Planet USA, if God exists, he allowed the accident that crushed Katie's legs and busted her wrist and broke her ribs and essentially jacked her up. He also ignores the 40,000 other people who will not survive car crashes in any given year in the United States. And ultimately, he chose to play Where's Waldo with the miracle. Everybody's searching for the Catholic priest. In other news, a family in Arizona decided that they wanted to leave the United States. Did you read about these people? They are pissed off that the government is too involved in religion or interfering in religion. Their faith is under attack. So they decided to take a, quote, leap of faith to see where God led them. And they took their two small kids and their father-in-law, and they set sail from San Diego. Next thing you know, a bunch of storms hit. The boat's damaged. They're adrift for weeks. So this journey that apparently God sent them on resulted in them having to be picked up by a Venezuelan fishing boat, transferred to a Japanese cargo ship, and then taken to Chile. Now, is anybody asking why God didn't just reach down there? Think about it, right? The ocean's just like a little bathtub to God. He could have reached down and just grabbed the boat and directed it right wherever he wanted to. Their family was fed up with government control. As Christians, they're sick of all this abortion and homosexuality and, quote, the state-controlled church. So they're going to, under God's direction, they're going to set sail for greener pastures. Set sail? That's a mixed metaphor. Bluer waters, clearer waters, whatever. Lady in Tennessee ended up in court because she named her child the Messiah. I'm sorry. This poor kid. You got to have a license to drive a car. They'll let anybody be a parent. If there are no qualifications in place, anybody can become a parent. Messiah, a judge in Tennessee, changed the name of the 7-month-old boy to Martin. Now, he said that the religious name, the Messiah, was essentially only earned by one, and that person's Jesus Christ. So it's possible he's a believer. I don't know what his motivation was. She's going to appeal. It's going to become a huge mess. They're obviously getting national, perhaps international headlines. Hello, it's a boy. Let's call him the Messiah. But my favorite story of the week, and then we'll get to your calls and emails. Have you heard about the weeping tree in Fresno? This is just priceless. You cannot write this stuff. Parishioners at a California Catholic church claim that a tree is weeping the tears of God. St. John's Cathedral in Fresno. These people are out there hanging out under the tree as the tears of God fall upon them. Except it's not water, they're not tears, and it definitely didn't come from God. It is insect poop. There's an arborist in the area who explained it to the rest of us. His name is John Realhorn, and he said, quote, the aphids will suck the sap. The sap goes through the aphid, and then it is a honeydew excrement from the aphid. And it gets so heavy in the summer, it will drip down. So the tears of God are aphid shit. I hope these people aren't sitting there with their mouths open. It's a miracle. And then the people continue to say it's divine because they say that the bug crap is blessed. How sad are we as a culture? Wow. You know, my father used to say truth was stranger than fiction. Now, we've had our differences, but on this, I think he and I agree. Truth? Yeah. Just sit around and watch the world, and you will shake your head. Truth is stranger than fiction. Had an email in from CH who said this. It was thanks to someone referring to the term weapons-grade facepalm that led me to your site and your podcast. You're kidding. I don't think I penned that. I think somebody else may have come up with it. I don't know. It's something I've just always said. Weapons-grade facepalm, and it sort of took off. And people, I think, feel that when they feel that level of frustration. Nuclear facepalm, weapons-grade facepalm. He said, since then, I've gone through many of your videos and have been a regular listener for several months. I live in Canada. And growing up, I remember watching a show called Circle Square, which was like Sunday school on TV. I don't remember much of that show these days, but since becoming a listener viewer of the Thinking Atheist, one lesson's been screaming back to the forefront of my mind, and it's making me ponder a few things. I don't remember all the sketch. Hey, I was only 8 or 9, and I'm 42 now. But I remember it had to do with the proverbial straight and narrow path to salvation. Basically, if you choose the easy path, which was lit by neon signs and music and fun, you were heading down the wrong path. But if you chose the harder path, the uphill climb, where things tried to stop you, but you fought through it, well, that was how you reached your reward. I look at the religion industry these days, and to me it seems they are leading people down that easier, flashier path that just a couple of decades ago led to, well, hell. What happened to the struggle? What happened to overcoming adversity? What happened to trying to better yourself as a human being? What happened to mutual respect for your fellow man? These were the values the church I remember tried to teach me, but these days I'm wondering if those same values are being taught to kids these days, or if they're really being taught anything at all except to drink the Kool-Aid. I don't think I was ever a full-on hardcore believer, but I was enough of one for years that I admit I feel a little lost now that I'm taking those first few steps into total non-belief. Please forgive the term, but your show and the community you've helped create has been nothing short of a blessing. Through you, I've started reading The God Delusion, Deconverted, and my YouTube surfing has led me to Hitchens, Tyson, Krause, and so many others. I just feel now that I have a buttload of catching up to do on this crazy thing we call life. I have you to thank for it. No, you have you to thank for you, CH. You know, it's interesting you brought up the easy path and the difficult path. It used to be a lot more prevalent that you would hear that. Don't take the easy road. Don't succumb to temptation. Whatever you do, don't do what feels good. Right? Adversity in this life and happiness and joy and peace in the next. It's like this is Hell Week You got to get through it in order to be able to get through and be worthy of whatever blessings come down, you know. But these days, the culture of the church has changed. It used to be the sinners in the hands of an angry God. You know, the 7 levels of hell. It used to be fire and brimstone. These days, you'll find fire and brimstone, but I am amazed, especially in the era of the megachurch, how many seeker-friendly, what we call seeker-friendly churches are really doing kind of the Joel Osteen thing. You have value. You can be all you can be. You can be happy. God will bless you. Prosperity's just around the corner. Joy and unity and happiness and bliss and kumbaya, all that kind of thing. It's the warm, fuzzy religion. Was it Rob Bell who came out and said he didn't even say, when he said he didn't believe that there was a hell? You should have seen. I mean, because he, before that, was one of the top tier A-list Christian evangelicals, authors, what have you, pastors. A huge thing. We went from hell was the card they played to try to get you to straighten up to, I don't believe in hell. It's more a spoonful of sugar approach. Come be a part of us. Come belong. Come feel good. Feel welcome. Feel loved. I don't know if that's just part of the overall zeitgeist of where we're at here in the Midwest and the Southwest. If it's the church's response to the increasing scrutiny on the issue of hell. People just used to shrug and say, oh yeah, hell makes perfect sense. It's punishment. But now you've got people everywhere, you know, like many of the guys he mentioned, you know, Dawkins and otherwise, who are saying, wait a minute, is hell really a just punishment? Would that really be a creation of a truly just and moral being? So the more hell comes under fire, pardon the expression, the more hell has to be minimized and sort of removed from the table. So I think a lot of these pastors start to take hell and they put it back here in their back pocket and say, you know what, don't worry about that. I don't think God would do that to you. I know it's in the Bible. Don't you worry about it. I think God's a God of love. God loves you. God created you. God gets it. We're all going to go to heaven. There may be different tiers of happiness. There may be different levels of blessing and reward, but I think we're all going to the same party. We might just get a different seat at the table. Area code 630. You're on the Thinking Atheist radio podcast. Who's this?
It's Drew from Chicago. How are you, Seth?
Thanks for calling, Drew. What's going on?
I was having coffee with a friend of mine, and I told him that I was an agnostic. And he told me, oh, well, Drew, you just haven't found the right church. And he's a beautiful guy, don't get me wrong. And he's got a great heart. I think he just honestly believes that you have to have a religious foundation in order to be a complete person. I don't know why people want to presume to know you, to presume to have lived your life and to have gotten inside your head. I just don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think people take comfort when others are like them, in many cases. Believe like me, think like me, worship my God, be a part of my culture. It's kind of a tribalistic thing. There's a security in it. And if you are not following that particular song and dance, it makes people uncomfortable. And so then they rationalize, well, you know, if you do it my way, if only. And one day you'll come back to doing it my way and you'll see that I'm right. And, you know, there's a host of reasons why, but I find quite often, you know, there are many who are threatened or made uncomfortable by differences. It's funny, I had to become an atheist before I really started to celebrate the differences out there. The people who were not like me, who didn't talk like me, look like me, act like me, and where I used to be threatened by it and somewhat terrified, now I find it amazing and awesome. You know, it's a gift. Every day they make your life better, you know. Drew, I got to move on. Thanks for the call.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, my friend.
All right, thanks so much.
Take it easy. Area code 607. You're on the Thinking Atheist radio podcast. Who's this?
Hey, Seth. It's John from upstate New York again.
What's going on, John?
First of all, to sort of on what you were talking about at the start of the show is God gets the credit when something is done right, and if the person dies, then it's the doctor's fault, or it's the EMT's fault, or it's the emergency room's fault. It's their fault, and God sort of skips the blame. It's the same thing when Carlin kind of mentioned, I wish there was a way that we could silence these Christian athletes who thank Jesus whenever they win. Never seem to mention him when they lose. You never hear the phrase, Jesus made me drop the ball. The good Lord tripped me up at the line of scrimmage.
Well,
you never hear that.
Or they could just say Satan. It was, I stumbled. In my frailty, in my flawed humanity, I stumbled and dropped the ball. But God gave me the strength to start again. You can go anywhere you want with that particular scenario.
That's just a little thing. But the main thing that I kind of want to bring up is I'm currently enrolled at Binghamton University. And every year, every summer, since 2009, there has been a pastor who comes in to the new University Union and has a bunch of huge loudspeakers, big microphone, a Bible, and a lot of banners. He seems to make it his sole mission to try to turn the homosexuality out of the campus community, because Binghamton is fairly well known to have a very strong lesbian, gay, transsexual community.
Wait, now the college invites this guy to come and speak?
No, they don't invite him. It's a state school, so he just comes in on his own.
So they're like a street preacher, essentially.
Yeah, and every summer, someone continues to do this. And on the one hand, I can respect, because the university is very nervous in approaching that situation, because they are a state school and freedom of speech and all that. And as a history teacher myself, and as someone who teaches things about the Constitution, I can get that. I understand that. I can respect that. But on the other hand, I also every summer sign a petition that comes around the student body at this guy's, for lack of a better phrase, tent, asking him to please leave, or asking the university to not let him come back on campus again for reasons of promoting hate speech or promoting prejudice.
I myself am not a fan of silencing a voice, even if it's an ugly voice.
I actually have here the article from the school newspaper with certain quotes of some of the things that he was saying. My favorite one is that he said, and I quote, "The Bible is the only true word, and the books in your library are a waste of time."
Well, that pretty much sums it up, doesn't it? That pretty much sums it up.
Public Ivy University.
It is astounding to me that the university would abide someone like that because they were so afraid of perhaps negative publicity or maybe some legal action. It seems to me that why on university property, even if it's a state-run university, why? I don't think they're required to allow this guy on. Let him go. There are plenty of sidewalks out there. He should, let him speak, but he doesn't have to speak on your front door. I wouldn't let him on mine. Go out and find another spot. You're not welcome here. Thanks for the call, man. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks again, Seth.
Take it easy. I had a message in from Christopher. He said, "Can you invite Richard Dawkins on your show at some point?" Well, Christopher, it's a dream of mine. I put in a few requests. Obviously, Richard Dawkins is pawed at by everyone, everywhere. Be on my show, do my interview, do this, do that, and he's a tough guy to pin down. I had the chance to meet him back the weekend of the Reason rally in D.C., a tremendous honor for me, as he has been so influential in my own life. Now, I don't worship Dawkins, but I don't think I can overstate his contributions. He's been out there fighting the fight for decades. He's been out there on the front lines. He's been called every name in the book. He's right there in the crosshairs, and he's living it. And in his 70s, shows no signs of slowing down. I'm a huge fan of his writings. I loved The God Delusion. I love The Magic of Reality. And I know he's got another book coming out, or it's already has just released. And I put in my request to see if Dawkins would come and do the show, and I have hopes that one day he will. I don't know. We'll see. If it happens, I'll make a big noise about it. Richard Dawkins will be on our podcast in 4 months. And I'll just put these big posters up. And I'll just be posting about it every single day. Mark sent me a message. He said, "My dad is 80 years old and he's been a pastor since he was 20. My baby sister is about to turn 40. When she was born, after having 2 boys, My parents were more than happy to have a cute little blonde-haired, blue-eyed baby girl. After a year or two, they noticed something was wrong, and by age 3, they had the diagnosis she was, retarded with autistic tendencies. My parents held to their faith even though they got everything the church could throw at them. You know all too well everything from they must have sinned to she was sent as an angel from heaven. People prophesied over her. They prayed for her. I think about every healer that's been to the Northeast has seen and prayed for my sister with no results. Still, my parents hoped and prayed she would at least be able to talk. But she can barely understand a few basic signs like please and thank you. To make a long story short, about 4 months ago, we noticed she was having trouble eating. After numerous trips to the dentist and doctors, it was finally determined she had a cancer in her throat. And because of her inability to hold still for chemo or an operation, all the doctors agreed there was nothing they could do but let the disease run its course. They can't sedate her or something? That means she's destined to die a slow and painful death, one that slowly restricts her ability to swallow food and will eventually choke her to death. After finding out the results, my dad called me one day with a crackle in his voice, as if ready to weep in agony. He told me he didn't know why God was so mad at him. He'd been a faithful pastor all of his life, and now this. I wanted so bad to reach out to him over the phone and say, God's not mad, he's just not there. The only thing that held me back is that I didn't want to add insult to injury. Here he is watching the apple of his eye die in front of him. And then to find out on top of that his son is an atheist agnostic at best. In his current condition, I think it would put him in his grave also. I hope you've had time to read all of this story, and if you could bring this topic up, I would like to get some feedback from others as to what to do. Right now, I've decided to basically just not say anything about my beliefs and support them the best I can in this time of grief. On another note, I feel so very bad for my sister, and as much as I will miss her cute smile and joyous sing-song chants, I wish there was a way she could just be put to sleep without suffering this terrible thing. I can't even imagine what she is going through. Mark. We had someone call the show, I believe it was last year or the year before. They were going through some terrible tragedy, and there was a believer who used that opportunity to sort of piggyback the religious message. And the saying was, my tragedy is not your soapbox. And I feel the same is true in reverse. I don't think this is the time to soapbox. Do I think that it's important that these difficult questions be asked? Sure. Do I think that this might provide an opportunity for some people to evaluate where the true solutions or lack of solutions are coming from? Yes. Do I think this is the time where you say, oh, geez, if there was a God, your daughter wouldn't be dying? No, I don't think so. I don't think that's just cruel. I'm no expert. I'm just a guy with a perspective, and I'm giving it to you. But I think whenever you can, I think it's important for you to live your own life, for them to see you living a secular life, right? A life based in the real world, right? Their son has a personal relationship with reality. I certainly hope that you're able to find and use your own voice around your family instead of always towing the line to keep the peace. And you never know. I mean, tragedies quite often provide opportunities for people to ask often inconvenient questions. God said in Matthew that not a sparrow will fall from the sky apart from God's will. Well, what about something like this, the death of a child or the potential death of a child? Is this all part of God's will? If so, why is it part of God's will? Why would he do this to a family? Why would he use this precious life like a pawn in a chess game? And don't give me that light and momentary affliction song and dance either. We talked about that earlier. Struggle in this life and joy in the next. I don't buy it. I think, though, that whatever perspective, whatever destination, rather, that your father gets to, he's going to have to get to on his own. And he will be, in his journey, looking around, perhaps grasping for, what is this all about? What do I really believe? What don't I believe? What holds water? How true is all this stuff I've been preaching from the pulpit? And I quite often think it will be people who have a perspective that is different than his, that might provide the avenue for some discussion in his own life. But I think he needs to initiate the discussion. He needs to be the one to knock on your door and say, man, can we talk? Now, he can only knock on your door to talk about this stuff if he knows that you don't buy it, that you're not a believer. And that's a whole other, I know what it's like with parents. Trust me. There are times I wish I just shut my mouth. There are times I think it is not worth it. My heart breaks for you and your family. My hope would be that modern medicine does what it does and that advances are certainly made. I certainly put my trust more in the physicians and the scientists and the researchers and the people who are busting ass every day in the laboratory to try to figure this thing out than somebody in a priest collar showing up at an accident scene, that's for sure. And in the meantime, if you can just be there for each other, that's so important. It's amazing what just your presence in a room would do. Just a touch, a word of kindness, bringing somebody a coffee, just being there. And you can be the guy who didn't need a God to do any of that stuff. You didn't need a deity. You didn't need a holy book. You didn't need a life mission. You didn't need a great commission. You just did it because it was the right thing to do and because you're family. Area code 920, thank you for waiting. You're on the Thinking Atheist radio podcast. Who's this?
Yeah, this is Carlos from Green Bay.
What's going on?
One of my friends, he's a pretty, religious, moderate sort of kind of person, and he sort of really thinks my atheism is just teenage rebellion, because I'm 13.
Well,
so,
how did you get to a point of non-belief? Did you ever believe? Were you raised in a Christian family? Did you actually read the Bible? What happened?
I actually read the Bible, read Genesis, and all through it, I saw, especially the Sodom and Gomorrah one really got me. When Lot's wife just went, she looked back, and I'm like, why would a loving God just, turn a woman who just looked back in some city into salt?
What if she looked back out of remorse and regret and a genuine hurt for the people whose lives are being lost? What if she looked back out of compassion because she genuinely hurt for those who were losing their lives and God turned you to a pillar of salt and executed her on the spot? Is this worth our worship, people? Is this really what we're going to pledge our allegiance to? Yeah. I think not.
Yeah, or especially how you said how you would rather trust physicians and all over, a priest and a collar, just dabbing some water over someone. It reminds me of something Dusty Smith said. I forgot what video he was, but he was making fun of a prayer. He was like, remember that time when we prayed to man on the moon and there was a man on the moon? Remember that time when we prayed for a polio vaccine? There was a polio vaccine? And, the irony was that prayer had nothing to do with it. It was people.
Essentially, the problems and solutions are all right in front of us. We just need to focus and pay attention on the real world. I'm glad to meet a young person who's out there, sort of preaching the gospel of reality. We're just trying to figure out what the truth is, what the evidence supports, whatever that is. That's what we want to know. So thanks so much for the call. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Area code 505, you're on the Thinking Atheist radio podcast. Who's this?
Hey, Seth, it's Chris.
Chris, thanks for calling. What's up?
I'm a service member currently in the reserve doing my 2 weeks over the summer. And I work in a dental clinic. I won't say which one, just in case I don't need to get found out myself, because I am an atheist in a foxhole. But I work with a lot of creationists that are dentists. These people have been educated, and it's driving me insane. I just can't believe how someone will spend close to 10 years in school learning the biology, learning the science, and still tell me that they do not believe evolution. I actually got into it with a dentist today. He said that I just don't believe in it. It's too complicated. And I was like, how's it too complicated? You spent all this time in school. It doesn't make any sense.
It's difficult, I think, and you ask yourself if this person had not been a believer before they went into school. Because I'm guessing it's probably part of their upbringing, their family, their culture, so they're predisposed to embrace the faith, to compartmentalize it before they go in and actually learn science. So the science has to go through the filter, the religious filter, the God filter. And, you think, if they had not been so predisposed going in, well, how difficult would it have been? I think they certainly would have learned a lot more. And was the truth in my case, I feel like I had a regulator on. I had one of those inhibitors that kept me from truly understanding the world as well as I might have because I was religious. It's tragic.
Yeah, I was born into a Catholic family, did the whole sacraments to the Catholic faith because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. Finally, one day, sat down and said, I need to read exactly what it is that I'm believing in. And much like yourself, things don't hold up.
Yeah.
And when they don't hold up, you're just going to let it go. I guess it's easier for some, but some, I guess maybe it's just that overwhelming fear of death or maybe even hell.
Well, we'll do another show on the medical community down the way. I always like to celebrate our physicians, or the true healers. But we also like to explore, how can someone go into the sciences but also believe in fairies? That's always a compelling conversation piece. So we'll probably tackle it down the way. Thanks so much for the call. I appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Take it easy. I had a message in from Brian. He said, talking to a strong theist is like talking to an alcoholic. The strong theist could act really nice or really mean, depending on the personality type. The strong theist will deny the truth no matter what. A strong theist will ignore that they have a real problem in their social lives, or maybe the strong theist somehow likes acrobatics, somehow knows how to jump through fiery burning hoops without knowing. Theirs is an easy life without doing that. Like alcoholics, they're people we know, famous and unknown. As an ordinary person walking by, like alcoholics, they are our loved ones and friends and enemies. We need to tell these theists they have a real problem, but at the right time, at the right place, they're hard to get to. Just like a lot of alcoholics, they're not all stupid. They just have a social good life, even if they have a real issue. I'm not sure I understand, Brian. I think I understand what you're talking about in terms of the addiction to superstitious thinking. All right, the comfort in the bottle, as opposed to the comfort in the Bible. And now it's not about logic, and it's about short-term gratification, and it's about clouding the real world. There are a lot of parallels that can be drawn. He said, I was wondering if you could ever do a feature-length movie. Oh, really? Well, I'll tell you a secret. I have this fantasy about doing a long-form documentary. I've produced so many short-form videos for the Thinking Atheist. They run between 3 and 13 minutes. I'd like to be able to go out and produce a long-form piece, professionally done. Right now, it's just not in the cards. But I do have a fantasy of being able to one day produce a longer piece that goes more in depth, that covers a lot more ground, that's an important part of the conversation out there. And I think it's something that I'll probably keep in my back pocket. So if the opportunity ever does arise, it's something that's an opportunity I'll jump on. 636, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hey, Seth, it's Brooke.
Brooke, what's going on?
Okay, so I have a couple random things I want to talk about. You're talking about current events in the religious community, and did you hear in Kentucky they're trying to build a life-size replica of Noah's Ark?
I did indeed, as part of the Creation Museum, right?
Yeah, and I really hope they do, because when they do, then you can do the math, and it'll be obvious that you cannot fit all of the animals in there, and it'll be awesome.
They're not going to put that together. People are going to walk up and they're going to see the little facsimiles of the animals and they're going to get all misty-eyed and be like, oh, it's so beautiful. Look, honey, there's a velociraptor next to a penguin, next to an anaconda. It's so amazing. God is so good. I mean, this is how the religious go to the Creation Museum. By the way, did you hear that they're having some financial problems due to
I did not.
Declining attendance? People are not going to the Creation Museum as much as they need to, and so they're starting to lose money. And this gives me great joy, tremendous joy. I don't know. I mean, how many times can you go through the exhibit? The exhibit doesn't really change, right? It's the same thing. So once you filter the core audience through it, you've kind of blown your wad, right? I mean, there's nothing else for people to really see. You're going to lose money, right?
Right. And speaking of people leaving the community, you were talking a couple weeks ago about how you feel like it's not going anywhere and blah, blah, blah. And within my own little circle and what I see in day-to-day life, it is. Like in my school and everything, a bunch of my friends Angela, Faith, and Kylie, last year they were all like firm believers. And then since becoming friends with me, as of a couple weeks ago, it was a long process, but now they are all atheists. And last night I got together with them, and we stayed up till like 3 in the morning having like long conversations about it, and we watched a ton of your videos together. And but we did have like a little debate on morality, and I know you had a show on it, but I just wanted to kind of get your opinion on something. A lot of atheists believe in like subjective morality, where like we humans made up our own morals, but then people like Matt Dillahunty, they think morality is objective, like things are inherently right or wrong regardless of our opinions. And I just wanted to know what you thought about that.
You know, I struggle with it. I myself, I'm not opposed to the idea of an objective moral standard. The problem with me is that I've come to see morality so differently than I used to when I was a believer. Back then it was black, white, right, wrong. Everything was like a nursery rhyme. You know, everything was just so easy. And now I look at the moral decision specifically to minimize harm, to benefit others, acts of kindness, moral acts, ethical acts. You know, and I think to myself, will those decisions change from situation to situation depending on the circumstances? Yeah, perhaps. What I do know is that if an objective moral standard does exist, you know, this is always right, this is always, I mean, rape is always wrong. That's pretty easy. And I don't require an invisible parent in the sky and an anonymous book of primitive writings to tell me so. I don't have to have this to say that a murder of a person is wrong. And to me, I think, well, that's an objective moral standard, you know?
Yeah, I completely agree. I've been watching some morality debates between like William Lane Craig and people, and even though I completely disagree that you need God to have morals, some of the questions he poses are justified, I think. Like some of the questions he asks, like, well, what makes it wrong? How do you know it's wrong? I would like to know the answers to that too, but their debates like are spent so much time of the atheist explaining why you don't need God that we don't actually have. Like I would love to see a debate between two atheists with different opinions on it, so the whole God thing isn't injected and you could actually have an educated conversation about it.
I'm sure there's a lot of spirited debate that's already happened. We can probably just Google search it. The thing for me is this. William Lane Craig doesn't use this because he's genuinely interested in the answer. It's a trap.
Right, yeah.
The only reason you know it's wrong is because you are borrowing your objective moral standard from my invisible friend. And I think to myself, well, I know it's wrong because it damages another person. And it's bad for us as a species. It is a negative, damaging, harmful act. So I can know that it is harmful. I can know that it is morally wrong. I can know that it is a detrimental thing on multiple levels without requiring your spiritual construct over here. And in that way, I buy the idea that there might be an objective moral standard for murder and rape and all those types of things. I just don't think William Lane Craig and those people are using the argument in a genuine way. They're using it as a way to trap you into lining up with their particular dogma. I just don't buy it. So, but it's awesome that you and your friends are having these discussions and talking about some really important stuff. You know, there's a lot of good stuff out there that needs to be addressed by that generation, and you guys are doing it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
All right. Thanks for calling the show.
Bye.
Bye. Area code 510. You're on the Thinking Atheist radio podcast. Who's this?
Hey, what's up, man? My name's James.
James, thanks for calling.
Thank you for having me. A couple of years ago, I don't know if you remember, but there was a gentleman by the name of Harold Camping.
Oh, I know Harold Camping.
Yeah, he was teaching the end of the world and stuff. Anyways, he's my grandfather. And so I've grown up with that like my whole life.
I'm sorry, Harold Camping is your grandfather?
Yeah. I know that's crazy.
No, I want an autograph. I want an autograph.
I'll give you something better. You could come meet him if you want.
I have produced 2 videos about your grandfather on the
I've seen him.
The heels of his predictions of the end of the world and the rapture and all of that. So, all right, talk to me. Are you, I'm guessing, a non-believer?
Right, so,
what? What's your story?
So what happened was, when that was going on, my mom believed it too, like hardcore. And I kind of believed it out of fear. It was totally fear-based. And then once it obviously didn't happen, I told myself, okay, I'm going to be a good Christian. I'm going to start going to church. I'm going to start reading the Bible. And I did. And that's kind of when I started to realize, oh my God, like I don't believe in any of this crap. And that was about 2 years ago. And when that happened, I was honestly kind of terrified by the fact that I didn't believe it, because I was told that I'd be going to hell, you know. But after a while, it was just like a burden off my back. It felt so freeing, you know. But I still live at home with my mom, and she's a really hardcore Christian. And I've been wanting to tell her for 2 years that I don't believe in any of this stuff. But I've been so afraid, because I'm just afraid, you know, she'll burst into tears or she'll judge me, disown me, whatever. But finally, I picked up the courage last week, and I sat her down, and I was like, hey, can we talk? And we talked about a lot of things. We talked about her beliefs, and I was like, I don't believe in the Bible. And I didn't tell her I'm an atheist, but I just said, yeah, I don't believe in the Bible. I'm not a Christian. And she was totally cool. She was like, James, I love you for who you are. You're my son. I wish that all of my kids would be Christians, but that's unrealistic for me to think so. Yeah, it was really freaking awesome. I had this vision of her as being this terrible, judgmental monster, and she's not that. So to anybody else out there who is contemplating telling their parents and they're so terrified of being judged, it's possible that they won't do that to you.
I love it. I mean, what an amazing thing for someone to say. I celebrate your personal right to choose and be who you are, and I love you anyway. It doesn't happen nearly often enough out there. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was awesome, and I was totally blown away and surprised.
So wait, is Harold Camping her dad?
Yeah.
And what's her take on all this rapture business, this whole end of the world thing? I mean, how many times has he been wrong, and is she raising an eyebrow in his direction at any point?
Yeah, I know, right? Well, I asked her about that, because since that didn't happen, she hasn't talked about it one time, probably because she was just like so ashamed. But I asked her, and she fully admits that they were wrong. She still believes in the Bible, and you know, that's whatever, that's fine. But I don't know why she went along with it for so long, but we live right near him. She's always talking to him, so it was fed to her all the time. So it kind of makes sense to me why she might believe it, but she doesn't anymore, so that's good.
Well, come on. I mean, Grandpa said the world's going to end, and then it doesn't end. For her, it's Dad. You have to kind of go, hey, wait a minute. Hey, hang on just a second, Pop. Can we talk? I mean, how many predictions have there been? I think he's done 3. It's either 3 or 4 different predictions, and they all failed.
Well, there's been like the 2 major ones, 2011 and 94, and then there was a bunch of little things along the way. I don't remember exactly when they were, but there were those, and then there was also like saying like the church was dead and all that other crap. And I don't know why she went along with it, but she did. So that's been like really crazy to grow up in.
So if your grandpa realized that you were not a believer, would he flip out?
I don't know. I don't think it's necessary for me to tell him that. But also I don't know if you remember this, they posted it on the news and stuff, but he's had like a few strokes since then.
Oh.
So he remembers stuff, but he's not like the exact same person. So I don't know.
Yeah, at this point, it would be like rubbing salt in it. I understand. You're his grandson. You're not going to show up and go, hey, Grandpa, by the way, here in the extreme winter of your life and in the midst of huge physical malady, I would like to tell you that you're completely full of crap.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, obviously, like, part of me would love to do that. Not anymore, but, like, when it first happened or didn't happen.
Look, it's because,
like
because you love your family and because you're a compassionate guy, which is something that we atheists are normally not known for by everybody. Everybody else says it's not possible. But because you are a moral guy and you honestly want to keep the peace and you want to do the right thing, you're gonna play it cool and you care about your mom. You don't want to cause her any pain. I totally understand it. I totally get it.
Yeah, man. But yeah, it was just an amazing moment, and I just encourage people to do the same thing and maybe not, because I was judging her, thinking that she was judging me.
Well, you know, the flip side of that coin is that there are thousands upon thousands of other people who have had the same conversation you had with their parent, and it's like that YouTube video of the kid who was coming out to his mom, and his mom flipped out, and she's gonna.
I completely understand.
The consequences can be severe, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think it's an amazing thing, and I congratulate you. And honestly, whatever the truth is, that's what we want. Ultimately, our goal is just to find out what is true, and that's it. So it's awesome. I appreciate your call, and thanks for listening, my friend.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, take it easy.
See you later, man.
Grandson of Harold Camping. By the way, that video was like one of the most popular ones that ever came off our channel. It's one of those things I threw together in a couple of days. The predictions were all in the headlines. Everybody was running around going, save the date, save the date. They had billboards up. People were putting these big signs on their vehicles. They were standing on the sides of roads. They had bumper stickers. It's the end of the world. In fact, we did a podcast called The End of the World that went through some of the biggest end of days predictions. And it's on Blog Talk Radio. You can find it on the thinkingatheist.com at the podcast page. And there must have been, I don't know how many we went through just to get did I give 50 examples? We just did a laundry list. This soothsayer came forward and said, it's the end of days. It's over. The date passes, and then they either revise the date or they say that something happened and it was actually the prophecy was fulfilled. It was just interpreted incorrectly by the media or whatever. And it's been going on forever. I mean, they were not just in the last century either. I mean, through the whole of recorded history, these people come forward and say, it's the end of days. It's over. People who live by the book of Revelation read the headlines, and no matter what happens, they think it's the book of Revelation. It's the end of days. It's been the end times for thousands of years. Jesus Christ is going to come in our lifetime, thousands of years. Jesus told his own disciples, there are some among you who won't taste death. Thousands of years. Still here? That's how I ended the video too. Still here? Still here, everybody? I don't know. It's been kind of a grab bag tonight. Thank you so much for listening to the radio podcast. If there's a subject or topic that you would like to deal with, we are going to schedule probably, I think, for September. I'm speaking in 3 different cities, and so I'm doing some traveling. We're going to Boston, Pennsylvania, and where's the third one? I've got to go to my own website to see. And so that's usually, you leave Friday, you get back Sunday night or Monday. But I want to do the Jehovah's Witness show. People are already asking me about October, and are we going to do a ghost story show? Of course, we're going to do ghost stories. And then if there's something else that you'd like to speak about on the radio podcast, I would love the opportunity to I don't know, at least give it a shot. If you want to give me an email, it's podcast@thethinkingatheist.com. I do appreciate the support of the show. Thank you so much for listening, for spreading the word. If you know somebody who is, I don't know, looking for a conversation about these types of things, we have believers and non-believers alike on the other side of the radio. So tell your friends, tell your family, check it out. We'll see you next Tuesday night, the Thinking Atheist radio podcast. Take it easy.
Follow The Thinking Atheist on Facebook and Twitter. Watch dozens of original videos on the Thinking Atheist YouTube channel. And visit our website for resources, links, contact information, the editor's blog, and more. thethinkingatheist.com.